welcome to you all. We're delighted you're here. This is being recorded, so anybody that couldn't make it for whatever reason will have access, as well as our future students in BioFlex and in any program will have access to these on our South Bay Workforce Board YouTube channel. So that's where you can find it. And the speakers will first introduce themselves, tell them what their company does, and how their company improves the environment or the food science, food supply issues. Then after those introductions, which will be about 3 to 5 minutes each, we'll go into career pathways. And they'll each talk about the variety of related industry and growth available in their industry. What are the entry-level opportunities and the pathways into the fields related to environment and food service careers. Then they'll also talk about, we'll let them do that, then we'll come back to each one of them and they'll share their personal career pathway and the role of how important was things like a mentor. Did they find that they had to change their pathway at any time? And of course, if you've taken the time to look at their LinkedIn, you'll get a good idea about that. Then we're open to any questions that you have. Please feel free to use the chat as we go along to put in any questions. As always, Amelia will aggregate those questions so that our panelists don't have to be watching the chat. And she will make sure that any questions are presented to the panelists. If your question is for a specific panelist, please let us know. If it's for anybody, that's fine. And then we'll wrap up with our panelists sharing one final piece of advice or one final thought that perhaps they wish they had done or thought about in their early career journey. So we're going to start. This is really fun because with Asia, Kelly, and Tom, we have Earth, skies, and sea. So we cover our universe, which is kind of cool. So we're going to start with Asia. Asia, if you would introduce yourself, and you're on.
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Asia. I'm really excited to be able to be here with you guys today and talk to you guys about a little bit about what I do and where I work. Like I said, my name is Asia Nelson. I've been I have a bachelor's in human resources and a SHRM certification. And I also been in HR for probably about like 7 years now. And I currently work at a company called rPlanet Earth. What we do there is we produce the highest quality plastic, used plastic, and we turn into the highest quality plastic products with the lowest carbon footprint. So pretty much you guys may have seen when you're driving your neighborhoods, a recycling center, and you see these big bales of plastic bottles that are, just big old bales. What we do is we go purchase those bales and we reuse them and recycle them to make new plastic. So our whole goal and our mission is to have zero wasted plastic. And we're very passionate about it because it pertains to the earth, of saving the earth and, just, doing good for the earth. So that's what I do. Also, she mentioned how does my position help my company? Like I said, I work in HR. I'm very passionate about just finding the right talent for the company to continue to advance and developing individuals in their roles. So that's how I'm impacting my company. I'm finding the top talent we can find, the most passionate people about having zero wasted plastic. And that's how I've been able to impact my overall company in a million other ways, but that's mostly what I do.
That's great. And Asia did send us some photos. When we get into the career pathway section, I think that's probably a good time to show them. Okay.
Okay.
Is that all right? Okay, great. Let's go on. Thank you so much. Let's go into the sky. Kelly, Collett, will you kind of introduce yourself and tell us about your role?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me. Very excited. This was a really cool panel. I'm Kelly Collett. I am an engineering specialist at the Aerospace Corporation located in El Segundo, California. The Aerospace Corporation operates a federally funded research and development center that is exclusively dedicated to the entirety of the space enterprise. And what that means is anything related to space, we do it. We have people who work on the satellites, we have people who work on the communication systems, the sensors, the ground systems, the rockets that put them up, completely across the entire space industry. Our main role is to assure that our government and civil and commercial customers all achieve mission success for their respective missions. Specifically, I'm involved in the Weather Remote Sensing Systems Office. As the name of the office suggests, we're focused on satellites that monitor weather, also our environment. And so there's a lot of benefit to taking those measurements from space. You get really great global coverage, rapid refresh of the data. It gives you a whole Earth look at the current state of not just our atmosphere and what's going on with the clouds and is it going to rain, but we can also get imagery of the land. You know, we can see different types of forests and distinguished vegetation types. We can see how that changes over time. So impacts of climate change and how it might affect drought and how it moves. We can see migrations of populations. We also look at the oceans. We can see changes in ocean color. Look and see if there are harmful algae blooms off the coast that are impacting our fishery populations. We can measure temperature. Obviously, global warming is a huge issue. We can see, measure the surface temperature, both land and sea, which is huge. And yeah, we're touching all of that and, you know, making sure that we have good coverage and persistent knowledge of what's going on, not just today, but so we can predict what will happen in the future.
That's fabulous. And you really touch all aspects of land, sea, and sky. So that's interesting. Well, let's go to the sea. Tom, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Tom. I work for BlueNalu, which is a startup here in San Diego. I'm very excited to be on the panel. Those are some pretty cool companies that are also on this panel. So I'm excited to represent BlueNalu. We are a startup that is in the cultured meat space. So we grow cell cultured fish in the lab as a food product. As many of you may know, and if you don't, you should, our oceans are overfished. The demand for seafood across the world is skyrocketing. And with another 1 billion people on the way within the next 10 years, you know, how do we feed everyone? So we are positioned to be another option for seafood. The other options being wild caught or farm raised. We're one of the 28 finalists for the $15 million X Prize for Feed the Next Billion. There were 270 entrants in the contest. And of those, you know, there were a couple other companies that are also doing cell cultured proteins. But most of them are some sort of plant-based protein or otherwise to help feed the next billion people on Earth. So yeah, I went to Cal State San Marcos and have a degree in biotechnology. I work in R&D, and I forgot what else I was supposed to tell you guys.
No, that's good. That's great. But tell us about the taste of the products that you do. I can imagine that everybody's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Yeah.
So the goal is to have a product that is indistinguishable from traditional wild caught or farm raised seafood. So our product will have all the same taste, texture, color. Really, the only way that you'll know that it's cell-cultured seafood is from the packaging and the fact that it won't have any bones or skin.
Advantage. Fabulous. Okay, great. And again, to our audience, if you have any questions that have been raised so far, please put them in the chat. Okay, now we're going to ask the panelists to share the types of careers involved with organizations like them, as well as their own organization, just so we have an idea of what are the opportunities in the field in general, as well as what might be considered entry level, or how do you get into the field that you're most familiar with. And this time, Tom, we're going to stay right on there. We're going to start with you.
Okay, so being in a startup, there is plenty of opportunity. I'm not so sure about our competition, but I do know as far as our company, there are all types of positions that are considered entry level. Any sort of biomanufacturing, QC, QA, we have some open positions in R&D, media preparation, lab technicians, anything that really has current good manufacturing process will need as we grow. In the plant-based alternative space, there are also many opportunities, not just in R&D and manufacturing, but then also in PR, marketing, everything else that's involved. I mean, we have the cultured meat space. When I say we, I mean in the cultured meat space, there's been about $350 million that's been invested in the last year, which is double what was previously invested in the cultured meat space previously, and that speaks to how much the space has grown. So there's definitely plenty of opportunity. As far as how I got to where I am, I started out in R&D in human stem cells. So working in mammalian cell culture, working in a lab. At the time, it was working on induced pluripotent stem cells, which is creating stem cells from skin to develop a treatment for Parkinson's disease. From there, I ended up at the zoo, which is a little bit different, but similar because we were taking skin cells to create stem cells, but for endangered animals, like the northern white rhino, which was a project that I worked on, where we took skin cells that were frozen in the frozen zoo, which is a collection that the zoo has of over 10,000 species, where they've collected those cells over the years. We took those, grew them, turned them into stem cells with the idea that you can take stem cells and create any type of cell type, including gonadal cells, so that we could produce sperm and egg from rhinos that had existed in the past to propagate a new population from an old population. From there, I gained a lot of experience working with non-model species, model species being human and mice. We know a lot about humans. We know even more about mice. And working with something like a rhino species and other endangered species gave me a little bit of a leg up as far as working on non-model species. And fish is a non-model species. There are labs that work with fish cells, but very few have successfully cultured them and been able to propagate those indefinitely. So that's what we do here at BlueNalu, and I've found my way in because of that, those opportunities. So as far as getting into a position at BlueNalu or some of the other cultured meat space companies, R&D biotechnology. A lot of the skills I learned in the biotechnology certification classes that I took are skills that I use on a daily basis. I highly recommend certification courses. I heard some of you are taking biotechnology certification courses. Coming to California soon is going to be the Biotechnician Assistant Credentialing exam, otherwise known as a BACE, B-A-C-E. And that is going to be a way for employers to see that not only do you have a degree or a certificate, but that you can apply that knowledge in the exam, and then also in real life as well. So I highly recommend those certification programs. I highly recommend any sort of internship that gives you experience in the lab. I was actually a part of the CERN Bridges to Stem Cells program, which is a California Institute of Regenerative Medicine. That's how I got into the stem cell space. But that gave me the skills and the ability to be able to segue my into the position that I currently have.
Quite a pathway, and it's very interesting. Also interesting to know the amount of money that's being put into the industry and the reasons why, certainly. So thank you very, very much. And we will be back to you eventually. Let's go on with Kelly.
Right, yeah, so one thing about climate change is the government right now is very, very interested in climate and climate research, climate mitigation and adaptation. Just this week, Vice President Harris convened the National Space Council, and I think it was just yesterday, the White House released the National Space Priorities Framework. Climate was a major component of that. So, you know, this is going to be a big part of the space industry for years to come. Beyond that, if you look at the executive level departments, so Department of Defense, Department of Commerce, where NOAA is, even Department of Homeland Security, all of the departments, they recently put out their climate adaptation plans and how each of those organizations will work to address climate change, and not just how it's impacting their specific organizations that are under them, but also how their activities impact the communities around them. So this, again, it's a really big industry. You know, you'll be able to find jobs either at with the government or with industry, or, you know, with aerospace. I think engineering is going to be a huge part of this, and obviously I'm biased because I'm an engineer. But at the same time, if you're thinking about what goes into designing a system, you know, there's a scientist at the front that says, these are the biological processes that are happening that we need to be able to track. These are the chemical processes that are happening. There is a scientist at the front of that, you know, captures all of that and works with us as engineers to design those systems. Beyond that, once we collect the data, we'll need additional scientists to, you know, do the data processing, do the data analysis. What does the data mean? Data in particular is a huge thing for climate. It's very much a big data issue. So data science, AI and machine learning is becoming a huge thing for our industry, not just for the data processing once the data gets downlinked, but also on board. How do we make better measurements while we're in space? I think, Tom, you hit on some of the manufacturing type things that are necessary. That's always going to be a thing. Even beyond the government sector, if you start looking at the commercial sector, there are a lot of commercial companies, startups that are interested in climate change. There will be entry-level engineering positions there, entry-level science positions that you can get involved in. And they're looking at CubeSats, so tiny little, you know, yay big, that go up and take images from space. We can, you know, buy data from them. So there's a wide variety of ways to get in dealing with engineering and creation of the systems to help us, you know, again, monitor, mitigate, and adapt to climate change and a changing environment. And I think that'll be the case for years to come, with the amount of priority being placed on this.
Do you want to, since Tom already did, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into this and the twists and turns of your career pathway?
Yeah, sure. So I was always interested in weather. When I was a kid, you know, my friends wanted to watch cartoons and I wanted to watch the Weather Channel. I was very much a little nerd, still am. I went to Drexel University for undergraduate. I got a degree, my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I worked in our space systems lab there. I figured if I was going to be an engineer, I'm going to do space because space is cool. After that, I went on to Georgia Tech and got my master's in aerospace engineering. And I joined the Aerospace Corporation about 7.5 years ago now. And getting back to my love of weather, when I first joined, I joined a department, the space architecture department, which looks at the conceptual design of systems. And within that department, we weren't just focused on weather, we were focused on a cross-cut of mission areas, just about any mission in space you could think of. I was actually working a lot on communication systems at the time. But when I hired on, you know, I mentioned to my boss at the time, I was like, listen, I'm really interested in weather systems. I would love to do more work with NOAA. I'd love to do more work with NASA and the earth science community. And eventually I made connections throughout my company and moved into the Weather Remote Sensing Systems office, where we're dedicated entirely to designing those systems.
Exciting. Okay. Hopefully people are getting a very different view of what they thought about what goes on at an aerospace corporation and what we're doing in space and why. Oops. Asia, we're going to queue up you tell us when to queue up your photos, and do you want them up now or do you want to wait a little bit?
I'll wait just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so please give us an idea of the variety of careers, the growth of your industry, what you see as the required skills, experience, and what's the pathway?
Gotcha. So we are also a startup company. We opened and started our company about 3 years ago, but don't let that fool you. The idea came probably around 7 to 10 years ago by our CEO. He partnered with one of his business partners, and he came, he was very passionate about making a change and having zero plastic, waste on the earth. And they came up with this idea. And just to give you guys more of a little bit of depth of what we actually do is like, the general water bottles that we drink every day, like this, is the ones that we recycle. And what we do is we take this used water bottle, we break it back down, and it goes through a process. And there's no other industry like us. We're the only ones in North America that do what we do, because we do it, the process from A to Z. So when we get this bottle, we break it down, it goes through a filter of things. First, we sort them out in our recycling department, because like, unlike these bottles, with this blue on it, we can't necessarily use these because it has too much chemicals and stuff in it already. We preferably like to use the clear bottles. We sort them out. It goes to a really extensive cleaning process where the bottle is broken down into little flakes, and then it goes into a process of getting really clean and getting all of carbons and everything out of it. And then we have customers that come to us and say, hey, can you make us 30,000 bottles or cherry baskets or salad bowls, anything with plastic, we pretty much can make. And of course, like I said, there's a filter of things that this bottle goes through to get recreated into whatever the customer wants. And one of the great things is, now when you look at these bottles, most companies, they want to say, hey, we are using recycled bottles. We're part of the mission of having zero plastic earth, because that's just the selling pitch for them as well. And they're on a mission to also make a change. So that is our kind of our niche, because again, we're the only ones in North America who does the process from A to Z at our facility. And I wanted to mention the whole process because, as you guys know, if there's that big of a process, we need people to do it, and we can't accomplish that without people. So that's why we are very passionate about finding skillful, top talent candidates and employees, and who is very passionate about, making a difference and making a difference to the world and making a difference into what they do. So our industry, of course, is plastics. We have, like some of the other panelists mentioned, we have positions like operators, maintenance technicians, quality technicians. We have all the admin positions. We have engineers. We have really good engineers, Kelly. We have engineers that we love and we rely on. We have inventory clerks. And then we have everything that keeps the doors operating for the people, like HR, which is me, and employee health. We have a finance team. So we have tons of different positions, because it takes so many skillful people to connect it back to our mission, is to zero plastic waste. As far as getting in this industry, we don't have anybody like us. We're the only ones, like I said, in North America. But to get in this industry, my advice to any students will be, do what you're passionate about. You have to have passion behind what you do, and you have to want to make a difference into whatever industry you want to go into. But to specifically get into ours, first we look for educated, talented, skillful candidates with different backgrounds. We're a very diverse company. We look for employees from all walks of life. We have employees who came out of state to help us with growing our business, and also different countries as well. So my advice as far as how you get into like our planet Earth, will just focus on what you're passionate about. Continue to educate yourself, ask questions, and just go for it. I think passion is what we mostly look for, because behind passion comes drive, and there's always room for growth. Our facility, we have about 3 lines running, and our facility is meant to run 6 lines. So we're continuing to grow, and the opportunity is there. So we have had operators, operators on a lower level. They're now leads or supervisors at our plant, just because they started from the bottom and they worked hard and they were skillful, and now they're leading their department. So it definitely opportunity is there. I hope I answered you guys this question.
Yeah, definitely. How about Amelia? Can you put up her slide? And maybe you can walk us through this a little bit. By the way, did you mention where you're located?
Oh, we're located in Vernon, California.
So nearby, not far from this area, from the South Bay.
Yes, so.
Why don't we start up here, up at the top left, or how do you want to go?
Yeah, let's go to the top left. What you see here is pretty much where the process starts. Like I said, everything gets recycled. So they come in these big old bales that's full of all the bottles. And sometimes there's stuff like they're in there, like newspaper or crazy stuff. I don't know how it gets in there, but it gets in there. And we have sorters. So these 2 guys that you see standing over the green display is what they're doing is sorting out the bottles. It goes through so many filters before it gets to the end result to make sure we have the highest quality bottles that are being recycled. So that's what you see there. The bottom left picture is just a picture of our plant, so you can see the large equipment that we use to be able to successfully recreate whatever the customer is requesting. you know, when the bottle goes through the washing process, after that, it gets melted down, literally to a liquid type process. And so that's what you see, those two large like bathtubs is what they look like, what I can explain them like. That's where the flakes get melted to. The picture to the right at the bottom is the flakes. It's not a really good picture now that I'm looking at it, but that's pretty much what the flakes look like when it goes into those like two bathtubs type things. And then the picture up to the upper right is just showing you that we produce stuff like cups, which is one of our main consumer of what they asked of us. Can you create a cup for our company, plastic cups? We need 500,000 cups. And you know, that takes time for our operators to do. So just a few pictures to show you an idea of kind of where I work, what we do, but there's so much more.
Oops. Thank you so much. You know, we wanted to share that, especially being a local business. So lots of opportunities there. We've talked about career pathways. I think what we'll do now is take a look at, we have a couple of questions. Amelia, I see two, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Thomas, and he's saying, all these are fascinating and inspiring. I would like to ask, as far as preparing for biotechnology technicians' careers, such as cell culture, what math courses are required to be hired or to be successful on the job? So maybe, you know, we can go through that not only specifically, but also generally. I know Tom did mention a number of courses that he's recommended. Tom, do you want to add to that regarding this question, and then we'll ask Kelly?
Yeah, sure. I highly recommend any all upper level college courses. You know, being able to understand math on a conceptual level is very important. But as far as cell culture or you know, the biology space, I would say biostatistics, statistics in general. Also, you know, there are, especially in the certification programs, there are math classes that are specific to each industry. For biotechnology certification programs, for instance, they have lab math, which includes things like serial dilution, dilutions, molarity, concentration, things like that. So all upper level college math classes are relevant in some way, depending on what type of job that you get into. But as far as like any sort of like technician job or things like that, I would lean towards the certification programs, because they'll dial you in on the specific math that you need for technicians.
Great. Kelly, would you like to add to that? How does math relate to the work that we've talked about?
Yeah, sure. So at least within my field in engineering, you're looking at, of course, all extensions of calculus, linear algebra, differential equations, multivariate calculus. You know, you start getting into looking at things like physics of the atmosphere, physics of optical systems. Those all require that complex level math. You know, eventually you'll have software to help you solve those differential equations and make that a little faster for you. And it's good to know the fundamental, I guess I'll call it the physics behind the equations and how they work. So when you're running that software, you understand what's actually happening and you know that you're getting the right answer.
Points. Asia, how the various jobs that you discussed with us, where does math come in?
Definitely. So we have quality technicians that use math. We have maintenance technicians who do stuff like schematics and things like that. So you do need math to be able to do your job. Ours is not as intense as maybe Kelly's and Tom's. field, but our our engineers needed to be able to, do their job. But
Designed, yeah.
yeah, so you definitely need it. But I would say, that's what you need to get your degree or your certifications. The real work happens when you're out there in the field. So that will come for you in your career, but the work is when you actually get out there and you're in front of it and you have to do it. So just enjoy the journey. Don't let the
Yeah.
math scare you.
And I think that's a good point. Depending on the job, even you may start in a position that doesn't require a whole lot of math background other than what normally you would get in your normal education. And then you can go on to fields, various fields involved. As you mentioned, there's not just what's on the floor, there's what's behind the scenes, the people like you, the HR and so on. So great. Our other question actually was for Asia, and it's what happens to the bottles that can't be used, that you discard?
We sell them to a different company that can use them because we try to have the lowest carbon footprint. They don't go to waste. They go to someone else because our plastic contains food for our customers. Most of our plastic items. So they go to other customers that use plastic, but it's not for food.
Okay. So the recycler recycles.
Right.
There you go. Okay, great. Please continue to post any questions that you have. We appreciate the questions. I'm going to ask our panelists to give a little bit more thought to the role of networking to move into careers and to gain. At this stage, most of the folks that are in the audience are students. They may have had a lot of experience. As you know, some have had no work experience, some have had a lot of work experience. But from the get-go, even in school, where does the role of networking come in? What kind of organizations do you recommend that they either follow or join if there's a student chapter that relate to your industry? That even though they may or may not be ready for what they may want to do, that you do, what do you recommend in terms of learning about networking, actual networking, and any organizations that you feel would be appropriate for them, if any? Kelly, why don't I start with you?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely want to echo what Asia said about, having a passion for what you're doing. Reaching out to people either at your company or at your school who are doing the things that you want to be doing or know about the things that you're interested in. That's a huge thing. Networking is a huge part of, not just finding your next job, but understanding what's going on in the industry. What are people at different companies working on? I am a big fan of going to conferences and hearing about what other organizations are doing. I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in remote sensing, get involved with IEEE. It's the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. They have a society focused on geoscience and remote sensing, which is entirely focused on remote sensing of the Earth. Also, the American Meteorological Society is it's probably one of my favorite organizations. They have tracks at all their conferences focused on climate change and how things are changing. I think finding a good mentor is also key. When I started in the weather group, I came in without any sensor experience. I came in, background in mechanical engineering and systems engineering, but I do very basic things about sensors. But I had a lot of great people around me, not just engineers who know the systems well, but also, the chemists, the physicists who understand what's going on in the atmosphere. What's going on with the detectors that we're using, and so being able to work with them and shadow them and pick their brains on, what's really going on with our systems. That's huge. And I think that's really helped shape my career, not just technically either. They've given me a lot of career development advice too.
Good point. The career development as well as the technical. Great. Tom, do you have any recommendations in terms of networking and professional organizations that these folks might want to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. Here in San Diego, we have San Diego Biotechnology Network, which I think that in any large city, there's going to be some sort of network, especially today with the internet, LinkedIn and all of that. It's easy to find a local network of, whatever industry that you're in. For biotechnology, I do know that in Southern California, Northern California, on the East Coast, it's Florida, Boston, all over. There are biotechnology networks that host mixers where you can meet people that are in different spaces, but like have the underlying background of biotechnology. And it's a great way to meet people. And I just want to echo what Kelly said. Following your passion and finding mentors is, I think, super key in really dialing in a career path, because they've found their path, no matter how that came about. They can help you see some of the opportunities that are available, maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that they avoided, things like that. I do want to say that, don't limit yourself to just one mentor. I had a couple of really great mentors for different aspects. I had a mentor at Scripps Research that really helped me decide on different career paths. I had a great mentor at the zoo that helped me really find different skills that I might want under my belt. I had mentors before I got into biotechnology when I was a business major that helped me decide that business wasn't for me and that I wanted to go into science. So, finding a mentor, definitely. Finding a couple of mentors, even better. And then as far as networking, there's always a local network in whatever field that you want to be in. Reach out to them, go to the mixers, don't be a wallflower. Just go out, put your hand out and say, hello, my name is, and I would love to learn more about what you do. And next thing you know, you'll have a huge network of people that are in the same space as you and that can give you advice. And just don't be shy.
Great. All right. So we've had advice from our engineer, from our research scientist, and now let's go to HR.
Yes.
I'm sure you have a few things to add.
Yes, absolutely. I think the most important things to do, guys, is Tom and Kelly definitely touched on, all the aspects of networking. I think it's very important. When I was a student, I was given advice, but I didn't know what to do with it. So when they say, go get a mentor, it's like, where do I go get a mentor? Like, where are these people hiding? Because they're just not giving to you. But one thing I learned in my career is that you can do the simplest things for networking. Like if you want to work at Kelly's job, or if you want to work with Tom, you literally go knock on the door and you say, can I have lunch with the engineer? Can I go have lunch with Tom? Or can I go have lunch with Asia? She works in HR and I want to do HR in the plastic industry. It's as simple as that. It's uncomfortable a lot of the times, putting yourself out there, being in front of new people, but those are the times where you meet people that you never would have thought you met and who have an impact on your career. So I think networking, get out your comfort zone. If you're comfortable and you're doing routine every day, that means you're ready for the next level. So continue to make yourself uncomfortable, put yourself out there, be passionate about what it is you do and what you can contribute. And there's going to be times where doors are going to get shut, or somebody at a higher level isn't going to listen to you. But in 5 or 3 years or a year, they're going to say, I remember that kid that came and asked about such and such. We have an intern position. I wonder if he's still available. They actually remember, but sometimes in their everyday, life, they're very busy in their jobs. So just continue to put yourself out there and have fun doing it. It's okay to make mistakes because that's where you learn. It's okay to feel uncomfortable because that's where you get stronger confidence. And I think it's the fun part. So just have fun.
Thank you. That's great. And the first thing that I would make sure that everybody does is, just like we gave the links to all of our participants, the audience participants for LinkedIn for each of the 3 of you. We want to make sure that everybody that is listening in also, if you don't already have a profile on LinkedIn, do it. It's a great way. You could go on, and if you decided that one of these 3 people that have been fabulous today are people that you would like to connect to, send them a LinkedIn invitation, but make sure you write a little note that says, I saw you, I participated, I really was interested in XYZ. I just like to stay connected or follow your company, whatever it is. So that's step 1. Other organizations we know, like BCLA, which is BioConnection LA, there's Women in Bio, there's SoCal Bio, there's the Manufacturing Institute. And if all of you are if you all are on LinkedIn and you connect to me, I will be connecting you to the BioFlex LinkedIn group, and I post everything that I get that relates to this area. So you will definitely see it. Fabulous. What we're going to do now is ask each one of you if you have one piece of advice that you wish you had known at the stage that our participants are in, our student participants. Is there one thing that you wish you had done or known that may have made a difference that you would like to share? If there isn't, that's fine, but just is there? And I'll just ask you, who would like to go? Because I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position. Who would like to start? Tom?
Sure. Yeah. So one thing I wish I knew early on is that you don't have to follow the path that you choose. Absolutely, if it's a passion, follow it until you can get to where you want. But if you get halfway down the path and decide, this isn't for me, or I want to try something else, try another path. I originally started out as a business major, and I followed that path for a long time because I kept saying to myself, well, I spent all this time, spent all this money working on this path. I have to see it through. But then I realized at one point that it wasn't the passion that I thought it was. And when I did find the path that I'm on now, I was amazed that it was so easy to switch paths and try something new. And I'm so glad that I did. And I hope that you guys will all find the path that you're looking for, but just know that it's okay to change your mind, and you can do it whenever you want. You just have to, be smart about it. But yeah, be flexible.
Thank you. Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about having a passion for what you're doing. But I think one thing that we may tend to lose sight on, especially as scientists, is we drill down so deep into our specialties that we lose sight of the things around us. And one of the things that I've learned more recently in my career is that having, interesting side projects outside of my day-to-day technical competency really helps me. And this extends to college or classes as well. Working on things, taking classes where, okay, your main classes are science. Take some writing classes, take some music classes. They help shape your brain in a different way than your core competencies do. There have been studies that show that people who focus solely on one thing for their entire career, even in athletics, you know, they'll reach a certain point, but having a secondary hobby, say you're a tennis star and you start playing the violin on the side, having that secondary hobby gives you a diverse perspective on the things around you. It gives you a different way to think and approach the problems that you're going to face. It helps, you know, make you a more well-rounded person and, you know, adapt to challenges around you. And I think that's really important. So don't be afraid to take some classes outside of, you know, your STEM classes.
Fascinating. Great advice. Great. Asia, one thing that you would like to share?
I think the advice that I also will give you guys is to don't compare yourselves to other people's journeys, because you can put a lot of pressure on yourself, thinking, hey, I've been doing this for 2 years and such been doing it for 1 year, and you know, they're further than me. I think the most important thing is just to focus on your journey and what you're passionate about and what you like to do. And excuse me, try to be good at what you're good at and not what the next person is good at. If you focus on your talents is going to take you to places you couldn't even imagine, because only you're good at that. Not what Joe is good at, not what Bob is good at. You have to focus just on what you're good at, and people are going to recognize that. And also, it's hard to stop in life to just have fun doing it, because sometimes we're trying to reach our goal or what we think is the goal. And like some people are attached to maybe compensation. Oh, my friend is making 150 grand and I'm only making 80 grand. You know, I need to get to there. But your journey is the most important part. Is have fun, slow down, look around you, take it in and learn so much. And you'll be making that 150, 200 grand, and they'll still be making 150 in 20 years because you decided to slow down and have fun. Wow. The three of you are amazing. And I hope everybody's as inspired as I am. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn this over to Amelia, and just stay tuned, everybody, because we have just 2 quick things to do. Amelia's going to share her screen in just a second.
Yep. Let's see. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, we'll just do it this way, the old-fashioned
Yeah,
way, because it was not cooperating. So we have 2 classes that we wanted to make sure everybody knew about. Some of you on the call are actually enrolled in this Biotech 1 class from West LA College, but we wanted to let anybody who didn't know about this know that the spring 2022 classes, they'll be offering the Biotech 1 class again, and they're also offering the Biotech 2 class. So we'll send you information in the follow-up email, but just wanted to let you know that these are happening. So hopefully you can check them out and see if you can take advantage of them.
Absolutely. And the next one. So we do want you all to know that the folks that are from the West LA College cohort are having their program graduation on Thursday, December 16th, same time, 4:30 to 5:30. We do invite all of our past workshop participants, and we are also inviting anybody who has been a participant in audience. So those of you today and have come to other ones that are not West LA College students, but would like to hear our keynote speaker, we invite you. She will be on first. I do want to give you a quick introduction to our keynote speaker, who I think you're going to find fabulous. Her name is Elizabeth Mendez. You'll have her LinkedIn contact in a follow-up email. She is a student. She's a pharmacology and cancer biology PhD, second-year PhD student at Duke University of Medicine. And she's probably the most incredible networker that I have ever met. While she's an East Coast gal, she has spent some time in LA. But most important is her inspiring story, which she will be sharing with us. It involves her career pathway, its twists and turns, the multiple barriers she's pushed through as both a first-generation college student, but also through the financial mess that so many college students have, or people that want to go on to class have. So she has some pretty interesting scenarios and advice. So we think she's going to give you some pointers and some just kind of good feeling about what the future is. We think you'll find it relevant and helpful to each of our graduates and to any faculty and others that would like to attend and listen to her. So that is it for today. Again, as we are entering the end of the program, normally all of our folks that are in the BioFlex program will be doing evaluations, but we will be also sending a portion of our evaluation to those others not at West LA College who have been attending our workshops. So we do want your feedback on our workshops. We want to know, did any of them change your minds? Did any, what did you find inspiring? What would you like to see? What changes do you think we should do? Our evaluations are very important, and I can guarantee you we use them and we make changes as a result of them. So once again, thank you to our three panelists, to Kelly, to Tom, to Asia. And any questions that you have or any connections you want to make with them, you will have that information in a follow-up email. Thank you all and have a great evening, weekend, and some of you we will see later on this month. Take care, everybody.